Welcome to Livzenastrology, the channel for updates and reflections, where we are grounded in the stars and elevated by consciousness. Thank you for tuning in.
So what we want to look at right now is what's going on between Saturn and the Sun. And as an astrologer, have you ever worked with or looked at the energy of a cazimi before?
Say that again?
Have you ever worked with the energy of a cazimi before?
I don't think I've ever heard that term in my life.
Yeah, it's basically whenever there is a planet next to the sun, it's almost like conjunction point. So if you imagine, like, every time there's a new moon, when the moon and the sun are together, the moon is actually going to form a cazimi with the sun when it's exact.
That's so cool.
So when a planet is conjunct the sun, it's said to be a very auspicious, a very influential time, especially depending on what that planet is and in what sign that it is at the time. So what's been really interesting, and just, now that you know what a cazimi is, you know what a conjunction is. And
absolutely,
now that you understand that we've got starting tomorrow, and you can see the exact point because I'm looking at the minutes too. These are both 44 minutes. Wow. So we've got Saturn, the planet of structure, discipline. It's our taskmaster, our teacher. It's the authoritarian, the father figure, is going into the heart of, that's what cazimi means. I think in Arabic, is going into the heart of the sun in Aquarius, in the sign Aquarius, at 44 minutes. So 27 degrees, 44 minutes. And why that kind of stood out to me and was significant to me was, first of all, the degree points. You've got 27 degrees, which, in numerology, you always want to add up the two numbers or the numbers you're working with to a single digit. So, of course, the 2 plus the 7 is the 9, which astrologically or numerologically, it's known as completion. And then, of course, we have the sign that it's in, which is Aquarius, which is the revolutionary, the unique, the independent, where we want to be individual, where we want to have our own individuated expressions. So why I called to talk to you, Katriel, and just kind of share energy, especially with this transit happening, is that I've really been getting the download, and I'm going to switch screen sharing so I can talk to you and see your beautiful face. With this conjunction, the download that I kept receiving in meditation was, it's restructuring, kind of like when you structure water. And, Aquarius being the water bearer, and with the sun sharing light on what structure, literally our bones are our structures. And so is water. We're anywhere between, depending on where you read it, 70 to 90% water is what the human body, we're mostly water. So the fact that, and this is just, and I would love for you to just take a moment and tune into the energy as you see it, Katriel, with your energy speaks, because it's so interesting. It's almost like we are made up of water. Everything's being restructured. We are restructuring water. If you ever study Dr. Emoto's work and the power of water and memory. So we're going into this new template design, if you will, this new, I would say, a cymatic of energy that we're stepping into during this particular cazimi, because we also have Mercury or Venus and Neptune conjunct in Pisces right now, which of course is in water, right? So what are your thoughts about this? Do you have any thoughts about this? What are you tuning into? And I know this is a new concept, the cazimi, but I know conjunctions are not new for you. But just the fact that it's only with the sun. Any planet conjuncting the sun is going to be considered a cazimi. So what are your thoughts?
So it's funny, I just never knew that term before. Yesterday, I looked at someone's chart. I'm sorry, 2 days ago, I looked at someone's chart that literally had this in it, except the sun, Mercury, and Venus were all at the exact same. And so I'm like, I was explaining because I knew the energies of the planets and how that would make sense to me. I just never knew it through that particular word, which is Aramaic, which is what I'm studying all day. Hilarious. So thank you for being a teacher. So what I see in regards to the 27, well, like you said, you looked at it from a numerological perspective. I look at things from the astrological, numerological perspective from the model that I use. And the 2 is setting the vibration. It's connected with the Cancer energy. The 7 is connected with Pisces energy, which is setting the vibration for self-love, for acceptance, for forgiveness, for self-compassion, these type of frequencies, both water, right? And netting that to a 9, which is the Mars energy, which is Aries energy, essentially. And that's inspired action. So it kind of is a little bit interesting to me that we have all this water restructuring within the 27, right? And in a most beautiful way for us to one, set a vibration of how are we looking at ourselves? How does that show up in regards to our mirrors? Which was the theme of the day, ironically, for me in my class. And then we also have the minutes, which is the 44. And the 4 specifically is connected in my model with Aquarius. So I find that even more hilarious. And how that's not always so subtle. It's very shaky. It's kind of like the earthquakes we've been experiencing on this side of the world. Actually, even in California, there's something in the energy right now that's shaking shift up. And it's asking us to really look at ourselves. What are we feeling? What's in the depths of our soul? What is in our memories? Because those can even they're asking for it to be restructured, and having better experiences, and also with this process of everything we're processing is having a good relationship with the self. And how do we do that? And then that equates into with each other, so that we can take inspired action to make the shifts in a positive way, in a way that is beneficial to the whole. So I see this playing out. We have something going on in Israel right now that is shaking the foundation. Okay. Going to the Saturn point, right? The foundation of our state. I found out today we never actually wrote a constitution. We were supposed to in the first Knesset in 1948 or 49 when we first became a country. And now the country right now, the government is debating on what is the structure here.
Wow.
Right. You can't get any more
wow.
This energy. It's mind-blowing how accurate this is.
It really
Absolutely. Is mind-blowing. And the whole country, and it puts it into a perspective of if we don't know what the rules are, how do we play the game? I think that's a big question right here, right now, for many, many nations. for many communities within ourselves, how are we showing up each day?
Well, that's interesting you say that, because, you know, I feel like in the old construct, it's whoever wrote the rules of the game, right? We make these games and we create the rules and the structures and how to play the game. But what if, and this is just coming in right now as you're speaking, what if now we're following the rules or the laws, if you will, of nature rather than the man-made constructs? Because those, what I feel and what I can see, is what needs to be restructured from the inside out, maybe from Mama Gaia herself, that's creating this movement and literally restructuring her being, right? The earth plane is regridding itself. And so as within, so without, what does that look like on the inside of us? And now the sun is shining its light. I find it so fascinating in Israel there that it's shining a light that, oh, by the way, we never had a correct structure. We never had structures in place to define the way our nation was going to thrive or be. So what does that mean to you there now living there? What's the response? How are people responding to this information, and what's being talked about?
So I can, one thing I want to say is, I think there's a reason why the founding members of this country, they didn't necessarily create a constitution, because one, we probably couldn't agree upon one. A bunch of Jews, okay? Our God-given talent is arguing with each other.
That's so funny.
But I think what was very interesting is they realized that no Jew sees life the same way, and that we all come from this principle of like leading our life with Hashem. And so, because there's so many ways to do that, there wasn't a written constitution about that, which can be very scary, one, but it can also be it could be an opportunity. It can be an opportunity to actually like have a nation that operates by what you're speaking of. This, like, the whole point of God, Hashem, creation of the universe, is like literally the flow of the creation, the source energy. Now, most people probably do not look at that in this day and age. Here, at least around the friends I'm around and things like that, they're not looking at it from that perspective. They're looking at it from a political and all these different things. And what's going on politically right now is, you know, essentially people want the right to be who they are. So you have the LGBTQ plus community speaking out, saying, we want a chance to love. We want a chance to live out who we are, the way of how we were created. We have, you know, liberal Judaism speaking out, saying, hey, you know, like, there's not just one way to be Jew. There's different ways to Jew. You know, taken from my rabbi, Joel, who just spoke this morning. There's many ways to be Jew. And so, this is the conversation. How do we operate as a nation? And what's going on in the structure is, because in like American government, we have a checks and balances system, okay? And so it's a little bit different in Israel. What they're trying to do essentially is give more power to, it's an unequal power between the Knesset, which is essentially like the Congress, okay, and the Supreme Court, the High Court. And so I'm still trying to really understand everything that's going on, because there's people on the left that are upset, and there's people on the right, and like not everything is, it kind of looks like very blurry on like what is the actual issue. And I think that's the point.
Well, isn't it interesting that you just now are figuring this out with the sun conjunct Saturn and this cazimi that is, I mean, how did you guys not know for what 70 years that you had no constitution, but it's just coming out now, right? So that's very interesting to me that this conversation needs to be had right now. So astrology is so magical, especially when you study patterns and timings of things, that there may have not been a correct time before this now moment for Israel to have this conversation about, you know, how can we embody and respect everybody's differences, yet still have a coherent and agreed upon constitution. It's almost as if I can imagine, like, if we were timeline jumping, going back to 1776, and it's almost like here we are in the present, but we get to see even when the United States was formed and the Constitution then was formed, it's almost as if we get to witness it now with Israel forming their constitution. And what does that look like? How does that, and what's interesting, the download that I received when I was in meditation really strongly, just processing and really tuning into this cazimi, the sun, Saturn going into the heart of the sun, because Saturn is our structure, and that's where this whole water, you know, restructuring our water. For those that ever study cymatics and geometry and sacred geometry, it's almost like a new sacred geometry wants to come in. It's being moved through the energy of planet Earth and through ourselves, our own inner structures. So the movement that's happening, the shifting, the things that are crumbling, meaning either beliefs or physical structures, like in what's happening in the earthquake with Turkey right now and going on with Syria. And so many people are being displaced. As within, there's so many aspects of us that's being displaced right now. You know, things that maybe we were holding on to, that the ego was holding on to as an identifier, that's also collapsing, because the sun, which is our vital energy, our life force, our ego, our personality, how we operate in the world, how we want to be seen in the world. Well, if Saturn's coming into the heart of that space and saying, that's not what's needed anymore, it's actually this new geometry that's needed, it's this new structuring. You can see where, and thank goodness we've got Venus conjuncting Neptune right now in Pisces. It's like we become sand so that we can dissolve and reform, go back to the ocean so that we can go back into the shores and reemerge as a new species, a new being, a new geometry, a new structure form within and without. So, and I had no idea what was going on in Israel. So it's cool to look at the microcosm, which is the individuated self as we are experiencing it and expressing it. But then the macrocosm, what's happening on a global level, and with all of our brothers and sisters on this planet, especially because Aquarius rules groups. So, you know, we're being individuatedly structured, but then our groups are also being restructured. And our financial groups are being restructured, our health groups, our education groups, all of these big spaces where basically we have to pull together to survive and to live. That's what's also being restructured. And what's coming in really strong, which I wanted to emphasize for myself included, is because it's such a poignant time, awareness is key. Because if you're not aware and you're just recreating from default, because all these structures are falling away, it's good to be conscious, because what can happen is we can replace the old structure with the exact same old structure and just rebuild, you know, a structure that's not sustainable anymore if we are not in awareness that we have the power to recreate and to change based on where we are in this now moment, and not based on the past or even so much in the future, but it's based on what the needs are right now of the planet and the individuated self. What's your reflection on that, as far as, you know, for you, And I know you've seen, what's going on with your community, but how does that impact you, do you think, or the individual in general?
There's been a lot of reflecting this week. I mean, down to me stabbing my hand on what would have been the anniversary of my wedding anniversary / my anniversary to my conversion to Judaism. All of this happening this week. Okay. And I'm guided when I get to the hospital and I'm having having a conversation with my friend Liat. I'm guided. You do not need to be in Jerusalem. You need to be somewhere else. And it's interesting. And I don't think it was like danger or anything. It's more like I felt that call. I needed to be somewhere else. I was aware of this. I listened. And I think it's really, really important right here, right now, that we're paying attention to what feels right and what does not feel right. Because we don't know what it has to do with. It could be something that's dangerous. It could be something that's good. It could be something that you're giving the space because your energy needs to be in a specific space to allow something to breathe, to transmute. We don't know how this works exactly. And that's okay. That's like the mystery. That's the fun part. But the point is, we don't need to know the why, but we need to know what are we supposed to be doing in this now moment, And listening is so freaking important, and cultivating those skills. Because, when we get to the point where we need to take that inspired action, right? This is just the beginning, folks. Okay? We're in Aquarius season right here, right now. Every single year, we innovate for the year to come. We innovate for what's right here, right now, and what's to come in the next year and the next years to come. So the amount of awareness that we place in that is so fucking important. Sorry. It is. And why I specifically speak in regards to Aquarius energy is because Pluto has not gotten into Aquarius yet. It will be fully embodying the Aquarian energy, fully, without after its retrogrades and all of that, by 2025. Mm-hmm. That means that there's no going back to the age of Pisces. It's gone. We're fully embodying and moving forward in regards to shifting and changing things revolutionary-wise. So every single second counts in regards to our awareness, to how we restructure going forward and how we transform. It's propelling us into the next age.
So how do you listen then, for you personally? How do you tune into that?
How do I tune into that?
Mm-hmm.
It's, for me, I think we all have our own gifts, right? For me, I get this this instinct inside of me of you need to do this, or you need to go here, or you need to sit. It's something that's in me that it can't necessarily be explained. It's not necessarily a voice or anything. It's an instinct. And I feel like it's connected with Archangel Michael energy, Archangel Michael energy is he has the sword, he has the mission, and he knows what he's got to do, right? Or the wolf that is on his mission. He needs to go and get food for his family. He can smell, he can sniff. He's got all these different, and he's got tunnel vision in a way on what he's supposed to do. Now, I say that, it's good to have tunnel vision to an extent, but also realize what's around you, you know? And so like for me to tune in to like why I need to be present in this moment and what, like, if I'm I think the best way I can explain this is I'm sitting in the hospital, right? And I'm noticing I have a hurt hand and it's bringing up a lot of emotions. Okay. And the message to me is you do not need to be at school tomorrow. It's not healthy for you to be at school tomorrow because you need to take time for you. You know, it comes back to the self of like nurturing the self. And
now you can practice tuning into self, but maybe for people that are learning to listen for the first time, saying just starting out with this practice of learning to listen, what practices did you get to get to the space? Because it seems like, you know, you're pretty intuitive and you've got, you know, but how did you learn to listen to that voice? What steps did you take to get there?
Like different, you can do things with, you can do this in any way, honestly. But certain things that's helped me along my journey, art, intuitive art. Sitting down and just kind of like allowing my hand to flow and do its thing. It creates a picture, right? And I never know what I'm actually going to create, ever. I sit down at that piece of paper and like, I don't know. Sometimes a vision will come through and then it's like, oh, wow. Kind of like when you're in meditation, like something comes through and you kind of like have to like, you can't like go into it too much because then you're like taking yourself away from the actual, you know, experience. But
would you consider
like,
art for you being meditation to get into those spaces?
Absolutely. It's like this muscle, this intuitive muscle allows, like, it's like not a force thing, but a letting go. You get into it more and more when you're relaxing and allowing yourself to receive. Not like this push. It's this let go. And that's like the hardest thing to do sometimes, because naturally we want to go and do it. We want to run. And there's moments for that. But you have to be able to receive the message before you run.
You know, the image I'm getting in my mind as you're speaking, it's almost like when you say you have to receive before you run, before you go and do.
Yeah.
To me, personally, the easiest way to get present and to get focused and to listen is to breathe. So letting it in is taking the deep inhale, and then going and running and chasing it is the exhale. And I feel like there's almost paramount fundamental tasks that we have to do as human beings. And however you get there, and there's many, 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 many different paths to get there. But really learning to listen, to settle the mind, whether it's through meditation, through breath, through being in nature, through grounding, through art. I mean, there's so many mechanisms, but it is the practice, which is also structure. That's what allows the energy to come into this perfect form and channel for you. You have to structure the time and the space and allow this frequency to come in. So I would suggest and just offer the opportunity, and it is a gift, to be with yourself, to turn off the television, to maybe put a 5-minute, hey, I'll be back in 5 minutes for moms, for single moms with their kids, you know, because this is for everybody. This is not just for those that are just here to study esoteric knowledge and can have the freedom to do that. This is for everyday people who want to connect and want the real world experience on how to do that and how to learn to listen. Because this, between now and tomorrow, I mean, there's so many pivotal windows and energy portals that are opening between now and March and all the way going into May, because all planets are direct right now. So it is the time to learn to listen. whatever that may be for you. And so today, even if you're just starting now with breathing, with meditation, with art, whatever the case may be, no time like the present, because you will be receiving new structures, new uploads, new downloads, new visions, new awarenesses about what is not working in your life and what has to change and what will change. And that's why through either studying astrology or any other kind of esoteric art this way can give you some perspective and some heads up on maybe some of these transformations that are happening. So,
yeah, and another thing is I've noticed that's super beneficial is though I don't always like it, but I know it's good for me, is in the wee morning hours. When I worked at Michael's, find that hilarious. I would wake up like 3, 4 in the morning. I'd have to be at my job by 5, and I would clean the store. And when you know those little thingies that you get to, like, it wets the floors and everything? I get to drive one of those thingies. And I was like gritting and cleaning the sacred space of my life. That's how I looked at it as. And I would do a constant meditation through the entire thing. And it was like me checking in with, in regards to my channel, cleaning it out, connecting with the angels, connecting with source energy. And that, like, in those hours, most people are asleep. And so, like, that means that, we're all connecting together in ether and our spirits are opening up. And in this time frame, you can actually, like, coach yourself or train yourself to lucid dream, to be aware in the dream, be awake in the dream. And how powerful that is, because essentially what you're doing is you're in this dream state area, but you're completely present within it and allowing for, you can, like, the senses open up, the tinglies open up and allow you to have better conversations with your friends around you, with your family. And it's like, it's a true experience, of like being able to actually be aware of all of the spiritual stuff. It's fun.
So you're saying you're recommending getting up early before the sunrise, like 3 or 4 in the morning, to get your connection point to your source energy, whatever that might mean for you. That's one of your suggestions.
If it's in alignment with you, I think it's a brilliant idea. And another thing is, like, the satsang thing, like, through Kundalini yoga. I will tell you, I've had so many things open up when I've gone to that. Like, find your practice, but like, there's something in Judaism with this about waking up with the sun. There's things in every single belief system, and whatever your belief system is, but there's something about it that allows to go from darkness of like not seeing to the sun of seeing and illuminating your day. And I think that's exactly what we're talking about in regards to the word you got to remind me of again, with
cazimi.
Cazimi, thank you. I feel like it's that energy. It's like waking up with the sun.
I love that, especially for the cazimi, because, here at Lives on Astrology, we talk about the energy. We deep dive into the concept and the gnosis, and we love the occult knowledge behind these energy fields that we see and that we study. But for me, I liked real world application on, okay, we've learned the energy. We're talking about it. We're deep diving into it. We're connecting into it. But how do we apply it in real life, everyday life, so that we can sustain ourselves and be riding these currents instead of getting thrown and tossed about like the ocean currents and maybe going into the undertow. It's just, I like the pragmatic approach to talking about these astrological pivotal moments in history, because they are changing us. And we do have, well, I hate to say the word control, even I'm a Scorpio and I like to pretend I'm in control of things, which I know over and over and over again, I have no control of most things. But what I can control is this vessel right here, how I breathe, how I show up for myself, what time I go to bed, what time I wake up. These are the things I can control. And these are the things that can tune me in and tap me into these energies so I can get my own structure or restructuring that's needed. This is the time for sovereignty and connection, because as you, the individuated self, shows up for self and gets those key components, those next forward movements, then we can go and take action collectively within a group, how we show up in service to one another. So these are all connection points, but it starts with the self. It starts with the things you can control. And then, of course, releasing and honoring the things you can't control and learning to know the difference. So yeah, I found this aspect to the cazimi aspect with the sun, and especially right now with Saturn, a very pivotal turning point, because it's almost as if like a time clock is hitting a certain window and it's like now, when they come together, the sun and Saturn, it's a timing that's signifying something major is being restructured within our egoic personality, life form selves. And what that looks like, it's a mystery. It's unknown. It's unseen. Yeah. Aquarius. It's innovative. It's new. It's from the future. It's coming into this now time moment. And we have to, I would say, a good way to process this is release all your expectations of what you think things should be and stay open for the possibilities of what they could be. Because, with Israel right now, I'm thinking too, gosh, there's so much opportunity to set a new constitution, to set up a whole new way of structuring that part of the world where it can be a win-win-win for everybody. But it's going to depend on the consciousness of the people and the time of how they structure it.
Absolutely. So, and it's interesting you bring back to Israel. I just want to mention again with that shift that's going to happen in 2025 with, Pluto being fully embodying in Aquarius. The last time that happened, want to know when it was? The Revolutionary War. And so the planets are not exactly the way they were, then, but it is showing us, America is going to be going through this as well, through this time. And it's an opportunity to choose the highest and best, like what you're saying. And we're all coming into this because again, Britain would be a part of this scenario. Like a lot of Britain also has Commonwealth countries. We're now talking about the world, how this all shifts is literally one smile at a time. We got to be able to to teach what is beauty and what is love, what is laughter, because those are the things that are going to shift us into this frequency of what we really, really want to experience wholeheartedly, little by little.
And wholeheartedly, it's right, because the sun is ruled by Leo, which rules the heart. It's ruled the heart space, the earth and the heart are spelled almost identical. You just have to rearrange the lettering, right? So really coming from the heart space and getting embodied into the heart space. I myself have been working with some yoga postures. I've set myself up for a 30-day yoga journey, and I've actually was able to complete it which I'm very excited for myself. Again, Saturn structure. And I actually went past it. I'm on day 38 now because I wanted to keep going because it felt so good, right? So wherever it is you're being called to restructure and do it consistently in your life, that's where you're really going to see the restructuring take hold. And what you do consistently, that's the key. So this is also an invitation to really look at your life habits. You know, where do you put your focus? Where are you spending most of your energy? And does that serve you anymore? Does that job, does that relationship, does that habit, does that food, does that, you know, whatever the case may be, is that part of what needs to be restructured for you to fulfill the highest and best timeline experience within this realm, right? So these are opportunities to reevaluate and assess, and the sun will shed light on with Saturn where you need your discipline, where you need your focus, your responsibility, your structure, and not to fight it, you know, to simply observe it, because that's going to dictate how you respond to it. It's going to dictate your experience of these transformations. So, you know, I personally am practicing going with the flow. I'm going to re-say that. I don't want to go with, because there's what flow am I going with? I want to go with the currents that are in the highest and best for me, and let go with grace and ease those habits, thoughts, structures, people, situations that have to be washed away in the ocean, you know, to make new space. So this is also
interesting. It's interesting you said that, because like we have this electric flow going right now with Aquarius, but we're about to go into the flow of like the water ethers, right? With Pisces. What do you feel like? I don't know. Like, what do you feel about that? Like how it goes from Aquarius to Pisces. Like, what do you see with that, especially in this transit?
You know, it's interesting because, you know, Aquarius is the water bearer, and Pisces is water, but yet I also think Pisces is ether. Everything in nature is a current on some level.
Yeah.
And I feel that air travels and moves very similar to water in the flow. In my sort of gnosis and deep diving into cosmic energies, to me, space is the ocean, and it moves very similar. I've had DMT journeys, actually. I've had 2 distinct DMT journeys in my past, and I was able to see and have this recognition. I actually saw Van Gogh's Starry Nights when I was coming back from this one journey, and it showed me how the currents of air work very similar to water. And, you know, ether, we talk about, you know, Ethernet, when Ethernet came on board, which got us more connected. And then Ethereum, which is a type of cryptocurrency, which is also about currents and energy, because money is currency and currency is energy, the current. So we're all, even in our language, is reflecting back to these moving structures, these currents, these mountains. I had a download when I was in meditation. I was laying sideways. I was on the earth because I ground quite a bit when I can, especially when the weather permits it. I go outside, I take my shoes off, and I just, you know, connect to the earth, because I feel like, well, I know energetically, and now the science supports all the benefits that you're getting from the electrons and neutrons and how it's merging with your body and resetting and helping with inflammation and all kinds of great benefits just by being barefoot. But as I was laying down in the earth, and I'm here now in Kentucky, in the rolling hills of Kentucky in the United States. And as I'm looking sideways and I'm just meditating and I'm watching these rolling hills, I had the vision of waves of like the ocean. And there's formations here that are otherworldly. And I know Kentucky is a very underrated state, but I'm here to tell you there's some of the most majestic places here in the Appalachians and the mountain ranges that will take you to other spaces in time and dimensions. And I had this awareness that, oh my gosh, I could tell in this area that there was a giant volcano or something happened. And for these hills to be formed, in my mind, this is my imagination station. I have no proof of this, but in my imagination station, I almost saw, like, you know, when liquid lava is flowing and then over time and then it just hardens. And I'm like, what if that's how these hills were formed? Is, you know, these huge extinction events that have happened over and over and over again have also formed the lands that we live on now because of what things that like happening in Turkey right now with earthquakes and with volcanic eruptions and the things that are happening all over the planet. And I just, in my mind's eye, saw that, wow, there's a potentiality that this is part of how the Kentucky Appalachian Mountains were formed through currents, and which became currents of Earth. So again, you know, these are just ways that I'm reflecting and seeing through my imagination, through meditation, how nature is showing me that everything is a current. And it's just which way is it flowing? Which way is it directing? How is it directing you in your life? The best way to do is to tap into your own experience of it and let nature, let your own imagination share with you maybe some new visions about what you're really seeing. Maybe it's not what we thought what we're seeing.
Wow.
I don't know. That's just a reflection. That's just a download that I had received recently.
It's beautiful. I love it. Wow.
Cool. Yeah. You know, in this time of we're an age where we're looking for facts, we're looking, well, what is the truth? Well, what if the truth is found in our imaginations? Maybe this whole time we've been misled because there's been so much, you know, misinformation. And how many times as kids say, oh, you're just imagining something. Well, what if that is really the key, is that we just have to keep imagining things? And
I think you're spot on. My favorite, one of my absolute favorite quotes by Dumbledore. Literally, Harry says, "Is this all real, or is it just happening inside my head?" Dumbledore responds, "Dear boy, of course it's happening inside your head. That doesn't mean it's not real." I think that speaks volumes.
I'd love to next on our next podcast together, a deep dive into more of the concepts of what is real reality. And are we co-creating our reality with our imaginations? Because Pisces is prevalent right now and will be at least for the next 3 years until 2026 when Pisces changes signs into Aries. And so, you know, these next 3 years, most planets are going to be changing signs. We're going to have a completely different viewpoint, vantage point, perception point of what our reality looks like. And I'm excited about diving deeper into more of these concepts and really seeing how astrology and how we do astrology is going to be shifting in terms of, are we looking at astrology now through frequency? You know, less numerology, less dates, but more energy, more, you know, what does that look like? So I'd love to be able to explore more of these concepts in future podcasts. So.
Oh, yes, please. And I'm already discovering some stuff on that note.
I can't wait to hear it.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for your time. And Katriel, please check him out. He has his podcast, Energy Speaks. And I'm really grateful that you came to participate in the channel of Zen Astrology. I'm excited about initiating this with you and starting this series and starting just, you know, sharing the energy of, especially for those of us who love everything astrological and occult and gnosis and things that are hidden. I mean, these are fascinating topics to me, and I'm excited to explore further.
Thank you so much for having me on here. Like, I love you, Carm. Like, you're amazing.
I love you, Katriel. Thank you for being a part of my life. And thank you guys for listening and tuning in. And we'll catch you on the next podcast. Take care. Bye.